education, inspiration. Sahara TV.
I am from Sahara TV. I'd like to ask you a few questions.
Education, inspiration. Sahara TV. They get mount. They get mount. It's a culture, not a brand. The mission is to blend fashion with culture and identity, dressing for a purpose. These young, creative and dynamic duo of our very own Ghanaian descent are indomitable force taking over the fashion industry at unstoppable speed. Described as the fashion geeks, Kwaku Awor and Naina Poku are just best friends but business partners with a vision and mission to own the African-inspired industry. Gentlemen, welcome to Sahara TV.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Okay. Now, 54 Kingdoms.
Yeah.
That's a beautiful name. Can we start off by having you explain to us what this name means and how you came about picking that name?
Cool. Great. We want to start?
Yeah, great.
Well, my name is Nana Poku.
Right.
I'm Kwaku. Yeah.
With the name of 54 Kingdoms, how it started off. In 2009, when the company was registered, the number 54 represents the number of countries in Africa. So we get that question a lot, right? So we love the name, but what does it mean? And then Kingdoms just pretty much represents the whole Pan-African movement. So you don't have to be in the African continent as long as you are part of the larger diaspora, which is the African diaspora, pretty much.
Yeah.
Hence the word kingdom. So 54 kingdoms, then it's a culture,
Not a brand.
Good. So what and who inspired you? Because as we know, fashion is a not-go area for men in Africa. So what was your inspiration and how did you start off this movement?
Well, I mean, I suppose that we can talk, well, the initial stage of 54 Kingdoms started off in 2006, actually, before I graduated from my undergrad, where a colleague of mine showed me a website and they had these shirts that said, you know, I love Nigeria, I love Lagos. And I said, oh, that's a dope concept.
Yeah.
You know, so for me, I think what I found pleasing about that was that they showed love or they represented where they're from and where they have love for. But after some time, it's like, you know, it gets kind of boring. How many times can you say I love Nigeria on a shirt? Or how many times can you say you love this on a shirt? So, and at the current time, I was actually working on campus at a place called the Center for Africana Studies. And what I love about that was that it really allowed me the chance to interact with other people in the diaspora.
Right.
And then by conversing, what I realized is that we have stories which are very similar. You know, our cultures overlap and the foods that we eat overlap, the ingredients overlap. It's like there's so much history between our people that unless we start talking about it, we don't know about it. So, you know, I say, you know, everybody has a story to tell. Every country has a story to tell. You know, and I think that's what really brought my focus into the diaspora and letting people share the story of where they're from. And so that's how 54 Kingdoms started off, is highlighting and telling stories through clothing and through fashion. I've always had a passion for art. It's been my family. I know I've had the push here and there saying, why don't you go into the sciences? But if you have a talent for something, why let it go to waste and do something else that people think you should be doing? So 54 Kingdoms, that's how it started off, telling stories through designs. And that's what we are today.
Okay, now the pair, I know you're best friends before being business partners. So how did you then collaborate to make this an industry that it's threatening to be?
Don't tell me fun.
Actually, Nana and I, we got connected through a mutual friend. I was in we live in the same state, which is Connecticut. I was in a different school and he was in another school. And you know, I was always involved in a lot of planning activities, whether it was involved in music or fashion in some sort. And funny enough, I was supposed to put on a show one time, and I looked over his stuff.
It never happened.
I never ended up putting him in a show.
Was the stuff bad? Was
it was
good enough?
It was okay. It was coming up. It was okay. It was coming up. But I mean, realistically, because the timing, you know,
right.
the time that Nana was introduced to me was really a short time to put him on the show, and that's the reason why it never happened. But then, you know, we got together again when he was getting ready to move to Arizona for his graduate studies, and I was gonna stay in Connecticut and finish my graduate studies. So we got together and started talking, and he kind of pitched this whole idea about 54 Kingdoms to me. You know, knowing where I was coming from in terms of my fashion and my sense in fashion, he approached me and told me his vision, and I believed in it because it made sense that for a long time we've been dressing, but we weren't dressing with a purpose, right? And it made sense to the point where, you know, when you walk out the door and you have something on, you should be proud of it. As something that really inspires you or empowers you or tells you a little bit about your history or your culture. And this idea of having a clothing line that depicts that only, you know, makes sense to me.
So this is where that phrase educate,
motivate, and yeah, that's
okay.
where everything came together. So, you know, we talked about it, and, you know, they say the rest is history, and we're here today, and we still remain good friends.
Let's talk about your collection.
Yeah.
I know that you're involved in making men and women clothing.
Yeah.
And not just clothing, you're doing jewelry, which is Afrocentric jewelry.
Definitely.
You're also making high-end bags, the Sankofa brand.
Yeah.
Can you just explain to our viewers what that's like and exactly what your influence is and the materials that you put in there?
Well, I mean, I can speak a little bit about the collection itself, and maybe we can go in detail. But so the new collection we have out, we're very excited. Actually, we launched during Fashion Week. It's called Kingdom Come Collection. And this whole idea of, you know, we've always been known to make great T-shirts, and that's how we started off. And we can never, you know, not appreciate that. We always appreciate where we started from, which is, you know, putting together T-shirts. And so this idea of Kingdom Come was a phrase that we came up with mainly because we were coming off as a company that was doing more than T-shirts now. You know, we've taken some time to learn our craft. We've been able to experience and go through the market sector, really understand what women want, what men want, and also understand our design model, which is the academic model, because we really design through history. You know, we take information and we create out of it. It's a very unique model that you don't see around many designers. So the Kingdom Come collection is basically an expansion of 54 Kingdoms. What 54 Kingdoms, what people used to know as 54 Kingdoms as a T-shirt company, in this collection you see more than that. And so this is our arrival and sort of the idea of us having Kingdom Come. So we are here kind of thing.
Okay.
So, well, I suppose that with the expansion in terms of the products that we carry now, the reason why we really branched out into doing the accessories and into doing the bags was because, well, pretty much from two perspectives. You can look from a business perspective and from a creative perspective. Yeah. From a business perspective, it was, you know, we had to diversify our products to figure out, and as a small company, you can figure out where you have other opportunities. So that's what we had to branch out and say, you know, maybe we should get into bags, maybe we should get into accessories and see how big of a market we can really obtain from that. So that's why we have those different, those different designs and creation inside our collection. When it comes to the creative standpoint, is that we have all these ideas, and we're like, you know what? Besides just doing the clothing, we have ideas for jewelry, we have ideas for bags. Because Quaker and I, before the bags came out, we always traveled around with duffel bags, and there's these antique bags, and everybody used to stop and say, you know, we love your bags, we love your bags, we love your bags. Where can we get it from? Right. Like, well, if you guys already love our bags and it's not our bags, why don't we create our own bags? So, you know, that's how we really expanded our product line. But for right now, as a small company, I think it's the hardest thing, but it has to be done just so you can figure out what possibilities you can bring to the market as a small company. Diversify your products and figure out which one works, stay with that, and then grow upon that. So.
Okay, you did just stop there. I know that you now have moved into technology where you have this mobile app. Can you explain to us how that works and what it's all about?
I mean, we've always been heavy technologically on this end as a company. I think that's one thing that has really helped us grow as a company, and we're grateful for that, because, you know, as you move with technology, you see the change in you as a person, you see the change in you as a company. The idea of developing a 54 Kingdoms app was actually, it started about 2 years ago. We always knew we were going to get an app. I know. We did an interview in 2010. I'm not going to mention any interviewer's name or the magazine name. I don't want to mess up our promo here. But we did an interview in 2010, and the interviewer asked, where we see ourselves 2 years and 5 years.
Right.
And we said in 2 years we're going to be one of the first Pan-African inspired companies to own an app. And they said, isn't that too ambitious for a small company? True. So that was in 2010, and then fast forward 2012, we became one of the first Pan-African fashion houses to launch an app. And the app is unique. It's sort of a mini website for our consumers, because instead of really drawing consumers onto our website, we figure out why not bring the website close to them on their personal phone. People are on the go every day, so it's a good way to catch our audience attention when they're on the run. And that's the reason why we came up with this app, and it's very unique. It's very stylish. You can shop on there. You get to see new products. You get updates, everything. We stay connected with our consumers. And I think that's a unique feature for the company, and also for a small company such as 54 Kingdoms.
Okay, 3 years ago, 2010, your T-shirts were a big seller during the African,
the
World Cup.
Yeah.
So tell us about that brand, and tell us about the designs that you incorporated.
I think definitely the most important thing is that 2010, the World Cup was so significant.
Right.
I think people forget
the world
that.
was watching.
Exactly.
Yes,
I think one thing that we have come, as a company, 54 Kingdoms, and I think it's fair to say that, but we have really pushed the diaspora forward in a lot of ways. If people really pay attention to how we design and the things that we're putting out, it's really a push for the continent. We're really highlighting a lot of things that people are not highlighting as designers, because most designers design through African prints, and to them that's a seamless integration between the West and the culture. And so when you think about African designers, you really do think about African prints. But if you really look at the model that we have and the things and the way that we design, it's really about highlighting the continent and putting in an effort to highlight certain key components of the continent. So the World Cup was a very historical moment for the continent. The first time since 1933, if I'm not mistaken, or 31, that the continent has got the opportunity to host the first ever FIFA World Tournament.
That's
This
right.
is big, this is huge. And so I'll let Nana talk a little bit about the design process, but we took that and we said we have to be a part of this history. We can't just let this history go, because part of being a company is being able to make history as a company. And so once something huge like that comes into the continent, we figure we had to be a part of it. And as we took the design itself, and Nana will talk a little bit about it, and did all these things that we did on the different shirts that we highlighted, people got excited, especially Bafana sold out in 2 weeks. I'm not complaining.
Okay, good. And I know that you've been involved in a lot of charity work.
Yeah.
There's that time when Haiti was
Yep.
devastated by the earthquake. You moved in.
Yeah.
And there's also a foundation, in fact, a forum, Ghana Youth Forum.
Yeah.
Ghana Youth
So can you explain to us what those foundations are doing? And
Yeah, well, I suppose I can talk about our Community Outreach Initiative, COI, and what it stands for, and then I suppose from there we can go into detail, I suppose, to each one of the organizations. As a company, well, as a for-profit company, one of the things that we really got down to understand is that the people that wore our clothing were not just people in the fashion industry. Our clothing touches lives all over the place. And you have to give back to those people at the end of the day. You just can't collect the money from them and then forget about them. And I mean, Kwaku with nonprofit work, that falls in his alignment. So that's one of the things that he brought to the table, which was, we have to diversify who we work with. And I know a lot of companies get into the whole notion of, we want to do good, we want to help, but then they help in the wrong way because they start off and create their own, NGOs or nonprofit organizations. But whenever you start doing that, automatically you start fighting with other organizations that also want to do good. The pool of money is limited. So the more individual companies that there are, or organizations, that means the less amount of pieces or the less amount of money to go around for for everybody else. So for us, it only made sense that we really are not going to tie ourselves to saying we have a 54 Kingdoms organization, but instead we team up with other nonprofit organizations or NGOs and then do work through there. And then hopefully, you know, down the road we can have a big event and say, you guys do this, you guys do that. Connect and then come together and make something happen. We've been in Haiti, we've been in Ghana. We went to Haiti 6 months after the earthquake or so. And well, we started our campaign, the Build for Haiti campaign, 6 months after the earthquake, and we did it because after the earthquake happened, you know, from the time it happened to about a month out or a month and a half out, the media was hot. You know, they were talking about it and donate money, and people were donating money, but which is a good thing. But you never really heard about what's happening to the money or where it's going. And after some time period, Haiti wasn't hot anymore. You know, since it's not hot, the media doesn't talk about it. So for us, it was more so our way of saying, listen, people still need help. You know, even though they're not talking about it in the news, it doesn't mean people are not suffering. So we teamed up with the Dale Foundation, and we collected some funds through the Build for Haiti campaign, which is an online donation form. And then we also had physical events. And this was a benefit concert that we had was it at City College in New York. No, and when we collected the funds, we made that donation by actually flying to Haiti. We were there for a week, and we helped out with the school that they have down there. And during that time period, for the week that we're there, we helped out with the curriculum, with the after-school programs. And the school actually got destroyed during the earthquake. They actually lost some students and some faculty members. So it was a really touching moment for us. I mean, a lot of people donate money. The money is important, but for us, probably one of the most important things was that you had to be on the ground to really see the people that you're affected. Because sometimes the financial money is good, but the human interaction goes far more beyond, you know, what you could ever imagine. Because for somebody to know our people are helping out our own, it means a lot. You know?
Okay. Now I'm gonna stop you there. We also know that there is this international designer from Ghana. His name is Oswald Boateng. How has that guy inspired you guys, if at all he did? Because I know that you probably do separate kind of designs and flair. So how did he inspire you as a Ghanaian?
You talk from my creative standpoint? From your business standpoint? From my creative standpoint, you know, it makes me feel good to know that somebody of the African ancestry or diaspora can really make it to the top level of his game, which is the fashion world. And you know, doing work for celebrities and being all around the world, it's a good thing and it's a good feeling. It gives you something to aspire to. But in terms of the line of work that he does and we do, we're not really the formal type. Like, he does more tapes and, you know, I mean, more suits. And we don't do suits yet. So you better watch out. No, we don't do suits yet, but it's a good aspiration to see where he comes from. But for him, and it's totally different. I suppose your inspiration is different, and then the way that you run your business is different. His model, I'm not saying he doesn't promote the African identity, because also, I mean, he still has his name. He hasn't changed his name. So you can look that up, and then, you know, his parents are Ghanian. That, if you go into detail about him, you can find out. But it's not right there in your face. And there's nothing wrong with that, but it's just that that's the way that he operates. For us, when you work with 54 Kingdoms, automatically you know, just from the name, you're working with the Pan-African diaspora. Exactly.
Okay. So. Now, one more question. We're Africans. So there's this concept of like, okay, I like your product. Can you come over here? Let's talk about it, because I need to pay. So how do you work that? Because I know that you, like, for instance, your bag, the Sankofa, it's like high end, the quality, material, the design, and everything. So how do you deal with that? Have anybody really spoken to you like that before?
Yeah, I mean, you know, as a Pan-African creative, you get that all the time. There's this notion as people from the continent, there's this notion that we can possibly create to the level of a Gucci or a Prada or a Louis Vuitton, right? And so that automatically always brings down your value, whether you design to the highest level. People are still gonna compare your creativity to the high end. That problem is the reason why, as people, we haven't moved forward, right? Because I think the amount of time that Nana and I spent really researching and really putting together, because quality is very important to us. if you really look at our style of production, we don't really do a lot of pieces. We do quality pieces because to us, once it gets there, we want the consumer to feel as though it was worth every penny that I spent on it. But then you come around, you know, your people or our people, and sometimes there's this notion that why is it so expensive? But it's expensive because it's quality product. And there's that disconnection. One right there, there's that disconnection because they feel as though if you're a Pan-African creative, then you shouldn't be charging a high-end price. You know, and I think that problem, and I've spoken on that a lot of times because it's really, I won't call it annoying, but it's really something that's setting us back as people. Because if you really appreciate the amount of work that we put in, if you really appreciate the creativity that's been presented, then there's no reason why you shouldn't pay that amount for it. But you know, our people will spend almost $1,000 buying a Gucci bag and feel comfortable and walk away from the store and not feel any way, and still complain about a 54 Kingdoms product being around 30% as much, you know, around 30% of what they pay for a Gucci bag. So, you know, one thing I could say is that, you know, we need to respect the creativity around here. We have a lot of creative designers within our circle, and I think, you know, people need to start appreciating us more because the ideology of this is too much and can you come down on your price is really setting us back. And the worst thing is laughing at us because they're, you know, now you see Louis Vuitton using prints, you know, and people have been using prints for a long time. For a long time. You know, so. Now,
from here, where?
Because
the sky is just so close.
You know, there's this thing about, I have to correct you 1 minute. So there's this theory I heard, the sky's the limit.
Right.
We don't believe in that because they only tell you the sky's the limit because so you can't aim any higher than that. You know, it's limitless. From here, where do you see us?
On top of the moon.
Exactly.
Past the sky.
Past the sky.
Okay.
No, I mean, we actually have some collections coming
Definitely.
out. Then we're aiming for the summer for the collection to launch. And it's a whole entire process that we go through. For us, it's such an exhaustive process because we have to do the research, the history, you know, and we want to make sure it's the right history because you can go online and just Google anything up and something will come up. But you have to find the right history, you know, you have to find stuff that back up what you're reading. Exactly. And our history, the African history, it's not so easily accessible, you know, and as they say, our history has been destroyed so that we will not have any future. So, you know, we had to really dig and dive and find it. And I think that for us, one of the hardest things also when it comes to researching is that the diaspora is so huge. You know, from Cuba to you name it. I mean, like the African people are all over the round. And I think that's what we want people to understand because as part of our next collection, we really want to touch upon different places that people want to think as, oh, that's part of the diaspora, but it you know, it actually is. So it's some process in the work, but we're hopefully aiming for this summer for a launch of our next collection.
Definitely.
And still staying busy with the community outreach stuff.
And people need to watch out. We did Storytellers in Fashion last year, which is basically an event where Nana and I really break down every single piece in the collection, the creation process, the naming of the collection, or the naming of the piece, where the inspiration came from. It really is an educational sort of environment. We do it with a live band, so it's not as boring as people think, but it's really great, actually.
Gentlemen, it's been a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you.
Also an honor to have you here and to be an inspiration.
Thank you so much.
We hope and pray that obviously the moon is really close, further than the sky.
Like that.
So anyway, we appreciate your presence.
Thank you.
And we've come to the end of our show today, and we want to thank our guest, Professor Horace Campbell from Syracuse University. We would like to thank the other guests, Pastor Bakare. We also want to thank the other guests that were here, 54 Kingdoms, and we'll catch you next Saturday. Thank you.
Peace.
Peace.
But in the meantime, you can also enjoy our usual suspects, Dr. Damages and Adiola with Keeping It Real. Thank you.